Good afternoon, everyone. We are starting the event now. So, I am Pranjal Gupta, and today we are going to have an introduction to FOSS, or free and open source software. We have with us 5 panelists who have cleared GSoC this year or in the previous years. Let me introduce them. So, we have with us Aditi Sawant. She is in her MTech second year, and she did her GSoC in OSGeo. Then we have Farheen Bano. She is also in her MTech second year, and she did her GSoC in OSGeo as well. Then we have Tezan Sahu. He is in his BTech fourth year, and he contributed to the PEcAn project. Then we have Sarthak Khandelwal. He is also the WnCC ex manager, and he contributed to Terasology. And then we have Yashwardhan Didwania. He's also the ex manager of WnCC, and he contributed to Mozilla. So we welcome all of them, and we will look for their insights into open source. Okay, so let's start. Can somebody confirm if I'm visible, if I'm audible properly and the screen is visible?
Yes, you are, Pranjal.
Yes, Pranjal.
Okay. Fine. So what is FOSS? So FOSS stands for free and open source software. Now, what do we mean by free? That means you use the software and you don't need to pay for it. It's basically like a free software. You don't need to pay for it. You can play around with the software. You can add features, or you can basically do anything you want to with the software. You don't need to. You don't have any copyright issues or anything. So that means it is completely free. You don't need to refer anyone whenever you are using it or whenever you are displaying it. Open source means that you can see and edit the source code of the software, and that too without using a decompiler or without any legal repercussions. So that basically means that the organization will put their source code on some global platform, which can be seen by everyone around the world. And you can download that source code, you can make changes into that source code, and you can maybe, let's say you are using a software for a long time and you want to add a feature into it. So you can download the source code, play around with it, add a feature to it, and then customize it according to your needs. So that is basically the essence of open source. Many people collaborating on the same project, like contributors all around the world, can contribute to it, fix bugs, add features, etc. Reusable means that you can reuse the source code to build something of your own. So that is basically, again, you can download the code and then modify it according to your own needs without any consequences. Like that is completely open to you, free to use. Just a second. Yeah, if anybody has any questions in between, you please feel free to post them in the chat box and we'll address them. Okay. Yeah. Reusable. So again, your source code can be reused and you can create something of your own, whatever you like. And universal access, as I said earlier, the code is available freely on a global platform. Mostly organizations use GitHub for it, and then you can access that software from anywhere around the world. Now a question might pop into your head, but why are the organizations making their code open source? Like for many organizations, the main source of revenue that they have is their code, right? So why are they making their code open source? Now there are many good and important points behind this. So first is mastery. You know that the best way to learn is by teaching. So if you want to explain any concept to somebody else, you first have to have a deep understanding of that concept yourself. And in order to do that, basically the concept of sharing your code with others helps you to develop develop a deep understanding of your own project, as well as allow others to contribute to it. So again, sharing is a very, very important aspect here. So that is one important point. Second is quality. Again, your house is the cleanest when guests arrive. So that analogy also applies to your code. When you know that whatever code you're writing is going to be seen by hundreds and even hundreds and thousands of people, then you tend to write more, like you tend to have a higher quality of code. Now, the quality does not only mean that it is more presentable, it also means that you have more test frameworks in order to test any changes that you make to the code. Also, you ensure good coding practices. That means that you write cleaner code. you have proper documentation available for the code. So these are the things that you ensure whenever any organization is making their code open source, because you know that many people are going to be contributing to it, reading it, and understanding it. Now, labor is basically whenever you're making your code open source, any person who is using your code and making suggestions on it, you are getting quality assurance or QA for free. Whenever someone is fixing a bug for you are getting, you are basically what you would have to pay a developer to do that, you are getting that for free. When somebody is writing a blog post about your code, then you are getting documentation for free. And when let's say you see negative reviews on that blog post, then you're getting a design review for free. So basically, these are the different things that you are getting for free just by making your code open source. So this is again a main reason why organizations make the code open source. The fourth reason is marketing. So again, an effective way to attract talented developers is to, so let's say you are a talented developer and you are using a particular software for a long time. Now, if I want to go into the job market, like that particular developer would want, he or she would prefer to work on that code only, like the one he or she is working on for a long time. So if you make your code open source, if there are like if it is popular, many developers are using it, then people tend to get attracted to your project, and then then the concept of job proposals and all that reduces, and you are able to attract talented developers. And then finally we have ownership. Basically, open to the world, yet you are the owner. So like whenever you invest a lot of efforts into a particular project, you invest thousands of hours into a project, that is basically you get attached to that project. And when you share that project to everyone, and you know that like people are benefiting from that project in some or the other way, that satisfaction there. Says your repositories, that is a very good tool that you have in your toolbox. Like that will be a strong point that you can say that I have created a project that is being used by X number of people, and that is helping by number of people. So yeah, these are the main reasons why organizations make their code open source. Now, why contributors contribute to open source projects? Again, there are some good reasons behind that. First of all, whatever software you're using, let's say you are using a software for many years, and by updates, or there is some feature that you would wish like if that would have been there, it would be a really good experience for you. You can do that on your own. You don't have to rely on the developers in order to add that feature for you. You can simply download that code, add the feature, run their testing frameworks, and see if it is a valuable addition to it. And then you can also suggest the organization to add that feature to your add the feature to their code base, and that is what contributing means. Now, like how is it different from creating something of your own? Like you may say that I may create something of my own from scratch instead of contributing to an existing organization. But there are a lot of problems with that. First of all, like in the way you would be getting many doubts, but not all of them can be cleared on Stack Overflow. There are many problems. Obviously, you can ask your peers, but again, there is not a good scope of that. That is, sorted by open source organizations, because they have a proper community. They have a very strong community, which is very, very helpful and very, very, it is very helpful to the new participants or the beginners and who have any doubts in their code bases. So that is a very strong point about the open source community, that this is a very strong community. Even experienced developers try to help as much as they can to the beginners, to the beginner developers. And the third point is that you get real world coding experience. That is a very good point, because software development, and you are actually working in an organization, working on their main code base, and then adding features or fixing bugs in that. So that is actually in a sense a generic software development job. So this is how you get real world coding experience. You get to work with big organizations, you get to interact with people all around the world, and this is the essence of an open source organization. And the last point being, interaction with people all around the world. Yep, you get to do that whenever you're working in an organization. Many collaborators all around the world are contributing on a single project, so you can ask doubts, clear their issues, etc. And you gain a much deeper knowledge of the software, and that is again a very good point. Whenever you're obviously when you have the whole code base in front of you, and let's say you have gone through half of that, and you're trying to um, fix something in it, you have a very good understanding of the software, and that can help you later when you're contributing to other projects, as well as you are creating something of your own. So that is a very good skill that that is a very good skill that inculcates in contributors. Now, open source software generally, again, a differentiating point of why you should contribute to open source instead of, making something of your own. Open source software is generally well documented. So there are entire wikis made on it. There are API docs. There are blog posts available on many codes and code bases which you can refer to. And documentation is basically the Google for that code base, and it is well supported. So IRC is basically Internet Relay Chat. You can think of it as nothing but a group of people, group of developers. And if you, let's say you are going through the code base, you have some doubt in a particular function, say what does this function do? You can simply ask it on that particular, on the IRC, the Internet Relay Chat, or on whatever platform they are using. And people are generally very helpful in that case. So this is again the strong point, or the point of the strong community. No matter how fundamental your doubt is, people will always be ready to help you. Is well designed. So specs before coding basically means whenever you're working on a technical problem, instead of directly jumping into write code, you first need to examine that problem, and that is where technical specifications come in. So for every problem, you have to have a technical specification so that you can first understand the problem and then get started working on it. Present in good open source organizations and good open source code bases. So again, and then they have rigorous testing frameworks. So let's say you happen to add some a new function, or you happen to change something. Then they have rigorous testing frameworks that you can deploy in order to test whether whatever change that you have made is effective or not, or is it causing any other errors in the code. And then user developer interaction is always there. So feedback is the most important thing that these guys, like the open source organization, rely on. They get feedback from users, they try to work on it, and then they, again, like this is a closed loop, you can say. So this is again, feedback is an important thing which is available in open source organizations. Yeah. Okay, so I understand the essence of FOSS. Now how do I start? So first of all, for anything, you need to first learn an alphabet. For open source, the alphabet is nothing but Git and GitHub. So Git is a version control software that allows organizations to basically have or keep track of changes that is made to a large code base over time. Because we have already had a session on Git and GitHub. You can go watch that on our YouTube channel. So basically, Git and GitHub is required in order to understand the contributing pipeline. What I mean by contributing pipeline is I have a code base on GitHub and I want to contribute to it. What all steps do I have to go through in order to make a change in that code base and maybe generate a pull request? That comes under the contributing pipeline, and for that, Git is essential. So the basic commands are git clone, pull, push, merge. We have covered these and many others in the session that we had done, I think, a few weeks ago. So I suggest you go and watch that. Like that is a basic thing that you need to be familiar with. Moving on. So yeah, this is a screenshot of the GitHub page of an organization, Mozilla. Mozilla is the developer of the Firefox browser. Looks on GitHub. Now, GitHub is the most popular platform that organizations use in order to post their code or in order to make their code open source. Repositories, these are the different projects that the organization is working on, and then there are people who are contributing to. Okay, so this is how an organization looks on GitHub. Then you come to the issues. So let's say I have a repository. So this is the this is a TensorFlow. This is a repository on Swift models of TensorFlow. So these are the different issues that you can find. Now, issues, as the name suggests, is nothing but the different issues that people within or outside the organization find in the code base that they may want to fix, or there may be some feature that they want to add. So they will post it as an issue in the issues page. Here comes the concept of labels. So labels, as you can see, after the first issue, there is the label good first issue. Then there are different kinds of labels that GitHub actually provides in order to classify the different issues that you have. And he or she wants to make fix a normal bug. Very overwhelming to see at first. So you directly jump to the good first issues. You first find the issues with the label good first issue of that, and that is how you develop, and that is how you would start contributing to that organization slowly. So there are many other kinds of labels. There is a good first issue label. There is a documentation label that basically says that this issue is only regarding the documentation and not any problem with the code. Issue with the documentation can be as small as a typo error, right? So that can be like these are the different labels that we have. Help wanted. Like there can be many kinds of labels. Okay, so this is issues. Now we move on to pull requests. So again, before we cover pull requests, like whenever you work on whenever you're contributing to a repository or to an organization, you always have to go through the contributing guidelines. You can see here it says contributing guidelines. Before, whenever an organization is making their code open source, they have to make it very, very clean. So in order to make that code clean, to have proper documentation for it and to have proper testing for it, they have to follow some proper guidelines so that not only with people within the organization, but as well as people outside the organization are able to follow those guidelines, and only then they contribute any code to the main code base. So these contribution guidelines are very, very important before you start contributing, before you start playing around with the code. And pull requests are nothing but, as the name suggests, let's say you downloaded that code onto your local machine, you made any change to the code, you test that code over and again, and it's working fine. So basically, you want the organization to pull your code into their main code base. So you will generate a pull request. That is what the name suggests. You will generate a pull request in order for the organization to accept your pull request, and whatever feature or whatever fix that you made in their code base, that will now be incorporated in the main code base. So this is what pull requests mean. Again, we have covered these in detail in our previous issue, so I suggest you go and watch that session. Now we come to the different open source programs that we have. So till now we have been covering like what is FOSS and how can you start contributing, what it does actually contributing mean. As a student developer, there are many programs which are available which you can participate in. So let us move on. Yeah. So Google Summer of Code being the most popular one. Then we have Outreach, we have Girl Script Summer of Code, Google Seasons of Code, and Raise Your Summer of Code. Many of these programs are also specifically aimed at women and other genders, or maybe other free and open source software, but they also promote other social issues. Now, let us focus on GSoC. What is GSoC? So Google Summer of Code is a global program which matches student developers with relevant organizations to write code. So just to be clear, it is we don't contribute to the Google code base. We do not have to do anything with Google code. Google is just a platform where different organizations, different companies, they first propose to they first propose Google that we want to contribute or we want to participate in this particular program. Then for organizations are selected, around 200 organizations are selected. Now these organizations then select students. So then students write proposals in order. So let's say there is an organization Mozilla, there is an organization Terasology. So I will write a proposal to get selected in that particular organization, and then the organization will review my proposal and they will select the students accordingly. So Google is nothing but a platform where organizations and students are matched, and then they can write code and basically contribute for summer. So it's a Google Summer of Code. It's almost equivalent to a summer internship. So coming to the second point, it basically is an internship, but you get to work from home and you earn a lot. So yep, that is what basically GSoC is. And yeah, so if we talk about some stats, then we have till the inception, from the inception of GSoC, and I think in around 2005, we have 17,000 students who have contributed. We have 35,000 mentors. So these mentors are from the organizations that I was talking about. Organizations appoint some mentors to each and every project. And so basically each project will have 2 or 3 mentors, and 1 or 2 students will work on a project for an or under an organization. We have 124 countries, 38 million lines of code, and then we have 715 open source organizations. So it's a very, very well-renowned program, and it happens on a very big scale. Excuse me. Talking about GSoC 2020, we had around 1,200 projects and 200 organizations. So yeah, like there is competition, but there is a lot of opportunity available. There are 200 organizations to choose from, and each organization has different projects. So there is a lot of scope. Yeah. Why should I participate? What is it for me? So the main thing is, first of all, you hone your developer skills, right? You hone your coding practices. Whenever you're contributing or writing code like in an organization, as I said before, you have to follow some guidelines, and that finally ends up improving your coding practices. You write much cleaner code. You provide proper documentation for every piece of code that you write. And again, you are contributing, you are learning languages, you are improving your developer skills. So this is the main reason. Second is networking. So like big organizations like Mozilla, they have many people working inside them. They are much renowned people, and the mentors that you get from these organizations are also very, very experienced. So they can also recommend you for your future endeavors. So networking is a very big factor which comes into play when you which should be one of the things that you keep in mind. The third is obviously for the love of code. If you love coding, then you why not? Then yeah, along with basically a 3 months program, you get stipend with it. So it's around $3,000. And GSoC is a worldwide respectable achievement. So yeah, that is a very, very big thing. You also that is a good thing to do. This is something that you should be aiming for. And if you're lucky, a free trip abroad to the organization's annual conference. This again happens for big organizations which have an all hands or some kind of similar kind of thing annually, maybe in London or maybe in USA, and then they may invite you there. Again, this is not the driving factor. This should not be the driving factor, but yes, these are some pros. Open source 101. So basically, whatever we talked about can be boiled down to this. How do you start contributing? You choose an organization. You get in touch on the IRC. IRC again, Internet Relay Chat, and or the mailing list. Then you solve your first bug. Then you solve some more bugs. You solve even more bugs. And obviously, there will be many points where you may get scared. Like when you first open the issues page, there will be many instances where you don't understand even a single issue. So you have to start small. Like your first bug can even be a typo error in the documentation. Then you start building upon that, and then you create much more substantial contributions to the code base. So this is how you start building your building your skills. Identify issues, get to know people. So IRC again is a group of people. So you try to solve others' issues. You try to ask people, then you try to interact with them. That is what actually FOSS or FOSS promotes. And then you can finally do a GSoC and outreach. So again, these are they're very good platforms that promote open source. Again, providing incentives to students to start as open source. Which is basically again a program to contribute open source. So in the month of October, you have to make around 5 pull requests to any of the public repositories available on GitHub, and then you get a free T-shirt. So basically, Hacktoberfest is a proper program that again promotes open source, and yeah, like you should find public repository, you start contributing, and that is how you get started with open source. Now, how can WnCC help you with this? So we have a compilation of online resources on this. So if you know, like we have a WnCC wiki in which we have compiled, or we have articles on very like a lot, almost every topic of coding that you can think of. And so we have open source articles. We have articles on how to get started with programming. And not only if you're a beginner, but also if you are at like if you are an amateur, you have good resources available there. And then there is a repository of all the people who did GSoC in their previous years, along with the link to their proposals. So let's say if any senior has already done a GSoC in an organization that you are aiming for, then you can directly contact him or her, and get some tips, or get some guidelines from them. We also conduct workshops on GitHub development, languages. So we also we have a proper community, the developers community for it, which works on the different projects like these. And then finally, we have open, we are coming up with this in October. We'll be having some basic open source projects that you can contribute to. So stay tuned for that. Okay, I think we are done for now. We can start on the panel discussion now. Do we want to have
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ranjan, I'm sharing a poll, so I'll ask all the attendees to please just fill that poll.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. We can continue.
Okay, so I'm now going to ask some questions to the panelists. So if they could all turn on their videos. Yeah. Also, guys, you can keep asking on the chat box and we'll clear them. Okay, so the first question is, how did you get started with open source, and what was your motivation? Like, what was your driving factor that you want to get into open source? Sarthak?
So my driving factor, so even I attended this event in my first year, and it was that year's managers and everyone who was talking about GSoC. So I thought this was a good opportunity. Plus, being someone who was not in CS or anything, I thought this was good way to get started with coding and get good at my skills. But I think what really pushed me off to finally contributing was having a lot of time during my first year summers. Like I had nothing to do for a month, so I thought, I've been always thinking I want to start this, might as well. So that's what got me started. And once you solve your first bug, it's addictive, honestly. You want to solve more bugs and you keep doing it. It's a lot of fun. So that's what kept me going on.
Okay. Tezan, would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, sure. So just as Sarthak mentioned, even I was there in my first year, sitting in the session for GitHub and open source. I think Sarthak himself was one of the people who spoke in this in that session. So yeah, I mean that's again what got me started off. And as Pranjal did mention, Hacktoberfest was something which came just after the particular session, and I did contribute. I guess I was so enthusiastic about the fact about contributing. Instead of making 4 or 5 pull requests, I actually, submitted more than more than 10 pull requests. I mean, those were definitely small ones. I mean, surely like some documentation bug fixes and readme bug fixes, just some introductory Python or competitive coding solutions, etc. I mean, those were very introductory repositories to which I contributed initially. But yeah, that's something which helped me pick up and contribute more to open source.
Okay, nice. That sounds really good. Let's move to the next question. What was your first contribution like, and how did your first pull request look like? Like, was it a bug, proper bug, or was it a documentation typo? Farheen, would you like to go?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. I was first introduced to open source in my master's. Like, I'm in final year, so in my first year, I came to know that a lot of our seniors have participated in GSoCs, but we were not aware of it so much. So my motivational factor was that when they can do it, then we should surely try. And my specialization in masters at IIT Bombay was geoinformatics. So I really wanted to do something in geospatial data, OGC standards, and WAPS web services. So when they introduced me to GSoC, then I went on to search for last year's organizations who had participated in GSoC, and I found out that there are lots of organizations who are dealing with open source geospatial data and web services. So my first pick was PyGeo API as my specialization, and I have a lot of hands-on on Python frameworks, so it was most suited for me. So I went on to research on its code base and some issues they were struggling with. I thought solving and connecting with the mentors, and that really gave me a kickstart for an open source contribution, because I got a lot of appreciation for it, for the issues that I pointed out, the PR reviews that I did on it, and it really helped me in getting selected for GSoC, I must say. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thanks for sharing that. That was really good insight. Now I would like to ask, like, when did you actually start contributing to an organization and solely focusing on an organization? When did you know that you want to do a GSoC in this organization and start contributing, making yourself known in the IRC? Yashwardhan, would you like to answer that?
Can I take up this?
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So as Farheen mentioned in her discussion, I'm also from second year MTech CSRE department. So it is like I also want to do something in the geospatial domain. And actually, in my first year, I had done projects in the augmented reality. So there was one organization I came to know when I searched for the organization for my GSoC. Then there is one organization which I had contributed this year for my GSoC. They had really worked very deeply in augmented reality domain. So here is the one kickstart for me to do something. So I just searched their website. I mean their IRC channel. There is a IRC channel in which I first pointed out what I had done in my that projects, and I introduced there what I had worked. Then I go into their documentation, and there was something which I pointed out, and then that become one idea for their this year contribution for their GSoC. So here it is my first start for that organization, what I can say. And then it all started, and then that's it. Yeah.
Nice, that is interesting. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, let us move on.
Pranjal, maybe I could just add on to that.
Yes,
because since your question was about when what's the ideal time, or maybe to start contributing to an organization. So generally, I mean, it's a well-known fact, quote unquote, in the developers community about the thing that generally people who are interested in GSoC start getting associated with their target organization somewhere the month of October, November, at the early. I mean, those are very early associations. and many of the developers spend their winter vacations in the month of December trying to make small contributions to the organizations that they wish to go for in GSoC. So that's definitely a very generic thing to talk about, and that's majorly the way people do it. But I would also like to add on, mention the fact that it's never too late. I mean, at a personal level, I would say that although I was keen on GSoC, but yeah, due to my selection for my internship, etc., I did not really think that I would be doing GSoC this year. But then things did not turn out to be the best during the month of February or so, late January, early February, and that is when I actually started just scouting for some organizations, and I came across a few. So yeah, even if you kind of get connected with organizations, so some of them in the month of late January, early February, etc., even still you stand a chance. I mean, that's completely dependent on how much intent you show to participate in GSoC, how involved you are in your discussions with the mentor pre-GSoC or rather pre-proposal, I would say, because
Yes.
to be honest, that is what was a major contributing factor for me to be a part of GSoC this year.
Okay, that is really nice. Just so the proposal deadline for GSoC, like to submit to the proposal to your organizations, is the end of March. So again, like as Tezan said, that you target your organization and you start contributing, contributing around October, November. Again, it's never too late, but that is what generally people do. So timeline is March, and you submit a proposal, and around the beginning of May and end of April you get your results, and then you start coding. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. My next question is, how did you shortlist organizations, and what were the factors that were involved? Was it the size of the organization, or was it solely based on the languages that you were strong in? Sarthak, would you be willing to answer that?
So how did I? So I was looking at the organization's page, and most of the organizations look very intimidating at the beginning. You know, they have these complex descriptions of what they're doing. Some of them are actually research organizations which professors of some universities are handling. So even that looks very intimidating. So I just went with what the seniors in our college had done earlier. So I knew people who had done a GSoC in Mozilla and in Terasology. So I first went to Mozilla's page. I looked at their projects, and even that felt very intimidating. I tried to even install and run something on my PC, and I couldn't do it for 2 days. So I left Mozilla as well. Then I went to Terasology, and the Terasology's description is we're a game. And that's all the description said, which is very not intimidating. So, and the best thing about Terasology was that their entire code base was in Java, and I was in ICSE till 12th, so which has Java as the curriculum. So I was like, this should work out well. So I went to their chat, and they were very friendly. They literally held my hand and guided me through my first bug. So I was like, this is good. This is a good match for me. For those of you who don't know, is basically Minecraft open source. That's all it is. So it's a lot of fun make coding for it and when playing the game.
Okay, so that is a really good experience. Yashwardhan, would you like to add on that? Or you're having some problems? Okay, I think he is having some. Okay, let's move on. So yeah, I think this has been covered, but did you have a dilemma of big versus small organization? And like Mozilla, for example, is a very, very big organization and compared to other organizations. So was there any preference to choose an organization, and what was your reasoning behind that? Farheen, would you like to answer that? Farheen, can you hear me? Aditi, Aditi.
Yeah, I will take. Okay. Just okay. Farheen, are you speaking? No, you can take it. Okay, for me, I mentioned earlier too. For me, it's not about the organization. For me, it's about the work. So first, I will suggest to everyone that whatever your specialization is, like if you are from the physics background, this is my opinion. It will differ also. If you are from physics program, if you are from aerospace background, if you are from astrophysics background, there are various organizations which are working on this domain. First, try to get into their pages, like their wiki pages and all these things, and just see what work they are doing, and if that is related something to your domain or your interest, and if you had done something related to that, then just join their IRC channel, and then there you will get to know what this organization are doing. So for me, it is about the geospatial domain. So I just saw 2-3 organizations which are working in this domain. First of all is the OSGeo. It is an umbrella organization, very big organization. And in OSGeo, there are 10 or 12 small communities which are working, just like PG routing, Mapmint, PyGeo API, and there one another organization, 52 Degree North. So for me, these two organizations are prime, and their work is related to what I had done in my curriculum or what I will going to do in my projects and all these things. So for me, it is about the work, not about the organization, because every organization is doing some really good work. If you are interested in machine learning, it's not about that you should go and see the TensorFlow work, because there are various organizations which are, even if they are related to biology background, they are doing something related to the machine learning domain. So it's not about organization for me, at least. Okay.
Okay, actually, that is very true, and that makes a lot of sense. Would anybody like to add on that?
Yeah. So
Yes, I
go
would.
on, go on.
Yeah, Sarthak, you can go. Sarthak, you can go.
So so when you're selecting between big and small organizations, the one thing you have to understand is big organizations are very well maintained. Like they have a lot more number of active members every day, and they will, what do I say? It's like a small company and a big company. A big company has its perks, right? So that's the same will be in a small organization, a big organization. An organization like Mozilla will have a lot more active members, be very well documented, very good tools, this, that. But a small organization like Terasology, when I started doing my GSoC, when I did my GSoC, it was a small organization. So it has like 1 or 2 active members. They might be busy sometimes. So it's tough getting started into a small organization according to me, because the documentation might not be that well. But so it might be easier to start with a big organization, but for a big organization, a lot of people apply. So it might be tough getting selected for a GSoC in a big organization. So these are like the ups and downs. For a small organization, it might be tough getting started, but it might be easier to get selected. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much what even I was intending to say. I think Sarthak summed it up pretty well.
Hi Pranjal, can you hear me?
Oh, there is some. Yes.
Yeah, I think I had some issues. Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So did you have a dilemma of? First of all, there is some
There's an echo from Didwania side.
Okay. Let me complete. So, did you have a dilemma of big versus small organizations, and how did you go about choosing them, and what were your reasons behind it?
I mean, yeah, so big versus small, those are kind of questions. You need to be if you're applying to a big organization, then you should start early. And so if you start early in a big organization, then you'll have you'll have a good advantage over people who are starting late, say in January or December. And usually, I mean, it doesn't matter whether the organization is big or small. It just matters whether you are interested in their work or not. And yeah, with small organizations, there's only one small problem, is that you're not sure that they'll participate in the next year or not. So you can talk to them on their forum or IRC or Slack or whatever, and you can, once you're sure that they're going to participate in GSoC, then it won't make a lot of difference.
Yes. This is something I would like to mention. Yashwardhan, can you mute yourself?
Yeah. Can the host mute him?
Divyansh, okay, nice.
Yeah, it's muted.
So I wanted to mention one thing is like whenever you start contributing to an organization, let's say you're starting December, January, organizations first have to be chosen by Google to be, like let's say this is for GSoC 2021, organizations will be chosen around February, which will participate in GSoC 2021. But if you have already started contributing to an organization around let's say October and November, and that organization may or may not be chosen by Google for the next year. So all your contributions, obviously, they like contributions are important, but if you were targeting that organizations, it would not be, it would not be it would not be a good outcome. So that is also a factor between organizations, that if it is like if that organization has been coming for regularly for many years consecutively, then it is expected that they will also participate. But if there is a small organization which has just recently started coming into GSoC, then you can't be sure that it will be participating the next year as well. So this is also one of the factors. Okay, let's move on to the next question. When did you start interacting with the mentors? You start contributing, but whatever project that you're contributing to will have mentors. So did you directly mail them and then said that you were interested in the project, or how did you build your build the interaction, build the profile with the mentor? Tezan, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So as I discussed earlier about the fact that due to some reasons I had I did apply a bit late for GSoC. So while actually scouting for organizations towards the early weeks of February, I guess I came across a couple of organizations which were not that big, because as Sarthak mentioned, with big organizations, I mean, it's always better that you start contributing a lot before, so that you have better chances of getting selected. But then, yeah, PEcAn project was I remember I having gone to the channels of PEcAn and Zulip. So these were the two smaller organizations that I tried to interact with. I think I started off looking at their pages. Their home pages contained some information about what GSoC projects some project ideas that they were looking for and wanted people to start contributing to, if possible. So yeah, mostly even on the GSoC main page, you do have organizations putting in their some of the project ideas that they wish people to work on. So if you can go ahead, check that out, and if something interests you, they also have mostly one or two mentors associated with each project whom you can contact either via email or via the IRC or Slack, Gitter, whatever channels they use. So I did that around immediately. The moment I started narrowing down on Zulip and PEcAn, I emailed, I filled the form and emailed the mentor, and he asked me to join Slack and continue the discussion. So yeah, we did have a lot of brainstorming during the pre-proposal stage, and that is what actually helps a lot in preparing a solid proposal, which is very, very essential for you to get selected, because your chats on IRC, your chats on Slack, etc., they may be really insightful or they may be really helpful, but in the end, you're chatting with just one person who is your mentor. But then when the organization selects you, they select you completely based on the proposal that you send. So yeah, creating a solid proposal with a good intent and a well carved out timeline, which you say that you would follow during the 3 months of GSoC, is certainly very, very important, and that has to be discussed with your mentors or even a couple of other people in the organization. I mean, and they are really, really helpful. I mean, I can relate to the fact that I got in touch with a couple of people who were not directly my mentors, but they were the ones who actually helped me with my proposal by giving really, really long reviews, and they were pretty long on Slack to read. But yeah.
Okay, that is a really good insight. Yashwardhan, would you like to speak on this? I can repeat the question. The question was, when did you start interacting with the mentors and
So I'll Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So I first contacted them in June, but I just introduced myself and tried to download their repo. For Mozilla, it was it was their organization specific issue that their repo was big and it was difficult to set up. So I took about 2 months to set it up and run into issues and those kind of things. So, but my first contact was in June, and I really started interacting with them in around August.
Okay. Let's move to the next question. What were some generic guidelines that you kept in mind while writing the proposals? The proposals obviously vary according to the organizations, but there are some guidelines. Maybe there are some particular number of pull requests that you need to make into the organization to make a strong proposal. So, what all did you keep in mind while making your proposal in order to make a strong proposal? Sarthak, would you like to speak?
Sorry, I missed the question. I was replying in the chat. Can you repeat the question?
Okay. Yeah, the question is, what all things did you keep in mind while building your proposal? Maybe like there are some guidelines which are generic to organizations, but what were the things that you ensured that made a strong proposal for you?
So proposals mostly have this common template. Like there are some things every GSoC proposal is supposed to have, and I think the more
Sarthak, you are muted.
the most important part which really decides if you're the strength of your proposal is your timeline. So in basically your timeline, I think GSoC spreads over 12 weeks, and you're supposed to give them a week by week. Some people give so GSoC is spread into 12 weeks, and I think 3 stages. After every stage, you get your first, second, third installment payments. So some people give a stage-wise breakdown, some people give a week-wise breakdown, and the more detailed your proposals breakdown of your work is, that what you want to achieve in this week, what you want to achieve in this week, the more you break it down and in detail you write that, the more strong your proposal looks, because you know what you're doing and you know how to do it. And that is all that organizations are looking for. If like this guy is not, just saying, okay, I'll do this, and it'll happen. If you're specifying, I'll do this, and very in detail, showing every step that you've thought everything through, then your proposal is very strong. And you don't have to worry a lot about that, because your mentors will help you making your proposal. But it is a lot of effort, and I think making a good proposal is the toughest part about GSoC. Like doing a GSoC is not that tough, but you need to put in everything to make that good proposal.
So on average, how much time did you spend on your proposal?
How much time did I spend on proposal? I think I'd say around, I think 1.5 hours every day for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's a lot of discussion. Like it's not very big. It's just 10 or 11 pages, but it's a lot of discussion. Like a lot of. I literally remember that there used to be 4 hours worth of chat, and I was too sleepy to go over it and find what was useful and then put that in my proposal. I just downloaded the entire chat so that I'll just look at it the next day and make my proposal.
Right.
Proposal is the most crucial stage. You need to get that right.
Okay, so you need to focus a lot on the proposal. Farheen, do you have any insight on this?
Yeah, I would like to add here. Before submitting the proposal, I used to have weekly discussions with my mentors, and every day our requirements used to change, our perception towards our approach towards the requirement used to change, our goal used to change. So that used to take a lot of time. But gladly, before the end of the timeline, before the end of the proposal submission, we were ready with a concrete plan that what are we going to do in 3 months, and that was really very hectic, but it was a very fun and a very interactive sessions we used to have with the entire community, I must say, and that is really very important for the journey.
And another thing is, when you're making a proposal, so when you do your GSoC, it's your summer breaks, right? But when you're making the proposal, your semester is going on. I think it's just after your midsems that when I started making my proposal.
And this time also we had to move from our campus, and it was
Right.
really very difficult in the lockdown. This caused a lot of problem for us, like additional problem.
Yeah, that is actually an important factor. Okay. So I have one last question. How was your GSoC experience? How was your 12 weeks? And do you have like did it meet your expectations? Do you have any takebacks? Do you want like I would like everyone to share their experiences and any future any tips for future GSoCers. Tezan, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So 12 weeks, yeah, definitely. This year GSoC was pushed back by, I guess, a couple of weeks because of the COVID situation, etc. But yeah, those 2 weeks definitely sort of gave me a leeway because I was midway through my internship at that point of time. My summer internship was from May to July beginning, and GSoC actually started in the month of June. So it was just 1 month of extremely. I mean, it was a big jugglery that I had to do during during the 1 month. But yeah, having those 2 weeks extra were actually in favor of me because during the community bonding phase, which precedes the actual coding phase, I did talk to my mentor about the fact that I do have a summer internship as well, and we actually started some minimal amount of work down to coding and started off with things somewhere in the middle of May itself, so that June would not be that pressing on me. And yeah, as the phase one ended, things were like more or less we were able to achieve things that we had mentioned in the proposal. And phase two, I think, was a pretty relaxing phase, I would say. But yeah, we did accomplish a lot of substantial work in phase two, much more than what we had actually written down in the proposal. I mean, the mentors were pretty pleased with the fact that we were able to contribute, I think, 3 to 4 more features than what we had intended to do during the entire GSoC period. So that was really nice to experience. And yeah, that the working with different time zones was something which was really interesting for me because personally, I think many of my friends and seniors, especially Yash and Sarthak, would know it pretty well that how much I crave for sleep at night, and I am not a very I'm not the kind of person who works late at night. I rather prefer to work early in the morning. But then the time zone gap of around 10.5 hours with my organization forced me to actually work late nights during the weekdays, because my internship used to be there from my summer internship used to be there from morning 10 o'clock to, let's say, around 6 or 7 in the evening, and then I'll sit at night from around 8:30, 9ish to complete work for GSoC till around 1, 2 something. And yeah, that used to be a really interesting experience. Weekends used to be full of discussions with GSoC mentors, etc. And yeah, that was the best part. And as I think Farheen mentioned, that weekly touch bases with the mentors is really helpful. Similar things were involved in my case as well. We had Wednesday nights fixed for meetings, weekly meetings, and to discuss the roadblocks that happened during the last week, the progress that we have done, and what we plan to achieve, how we plan to achieve the stuff in the coming weeks. So yeah, that was a very fulfilling experience.
That sounds like a very wholesome experience. Aditi, would you like to add something here?
Okay, so first initial phase of first month of GSoC is very hectic and very crucial for me because there are lots of things happens because of the corona, and because of that few I remember one incident when I was in the submission of my first evaluation, and my laptop got completely broke down. So at that time I was very tense and what to do, but I must say the mentors and the organizations are really helpful, which I was working on. They know what kind of work I had done, and I had a solid plan for the next 2-3 weeks if my laptop was broken down at that time. So they helped me a lot in that period. So this is one of the most remarkable incident in my GSoC journey. So and yes, the daily, not daily, but yeah, we I used to talk with my mentors in two days gap. So they had lots of suggestion for my implementation, and somehow we achieved that first month period. And for the second and third month of GSoC coding period, it was really easy for me because I had a solid plan before that. We used to have a weekly discussions with other mentors also, so that is very helpful for me. And yeah, that is very good experience for me.
Okay, so all in all, you had sounds like you had a good experience.
Yeah. I learn a lot of things during this because a daily, like weekly conversation and weekly reports, report writing. So these are very useful when you are contributing to any open source communication, because you are making some changes to them and you need to do a proper documentation for that, so that anyone other than you who would like to like contribute or who would like to review your work, it will be very useful for them. So reports are very important in this contributing period. So that's
Agreed. That is true. Okay, so thank you all for sharing your insights. I am done with the questions from my side. Now we can take the questions from the chat. Guys, if you have any questions, post them in the chat and then we can take up your questions. Are there any previous questions which are left unaddressed? You can even repost them.
Answered, I guess.
Sorry?
Questions are answered in the chat.
I think Farheen wants to say that most of the questions that were earlier on the chat have been answered by us. I think a couple of them are flowing now.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a
Yes.
couple of ones.
So Ashutosh Mitra is asking how much coding knowledge is required to start contributing. Would somebody like to take that?
I don't think more than CS 101 is required. And I know some of you could not finish your CS 101. But so all you need to know is how basic, just basic, okay, just basic patterns. You know how does a language work? You don't need to know a particular language. You just need to know some basic coding. You can just learn the language on the go and master it as you contribute to the project. You just need to know very basic coding.
Okay. Aman Vivedi is asking, what if our organization gets selected, but we were contributing to another project? I didn't really understand the question.
I think I think he's saying that if that particular project of his does not get selected, kind of a thing.
Yes. Okay, so
I think this.
would you like to answer that?
This would only
Yashwardhan?
happen. What?
Yes, go on, please.
So this would only happen if the organization didn't like your proposal for the project and they purposely chose not to select you. In which case, you can't do anything.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, that's very unlikely, to be honest, because it's an organization that gets shortlisted for GSoC, not a typical project, I would say. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what
and then
I feel.
Google gives the organization slots, like you can select these many students. So
Right.
a big organization gets Mozilla gets like 10 slots, and small organization gets less slots, and then these organizations give their best proposals, select their best proposals for the project to fill up those slots.
Correct. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Mahesh is asking, GSoC or internship? Which one would you choose in the same organization? Okay. Yashwardhan, would you like to take that?
In your second year, I think GSoC is much better than any intern you can find. Yeah. For for some students, I think the third year internship is much more crucial because it leads to a PPO eventually. So I can only say from my case that in your second year, I think GSoC is much more preferred than an intern because it adds credibility to your coding skills and builds your open source.
Plus, in your second year, you're more likely to get Didwania mute. In your second year, you're most likely to get selected for GSoCs than get a good internship because your resume is not that strong in your second year, and a strong resume is not something you need at all for GSoC. So that's what I think.
Right. Aditi, would you like to give a perspective from the MTech side? I don't think there will be a difference, but yeah, if you have anything to add.
Okay, for me it was a GSoC because for the MTech there will be a slightly uncertainty of getting internship because some guides will not allow to do internship with a company or something like that. So for that, I don't know about other departments. But for our department, GSoC will be okay. Okay thing, like they don't have any objection. Even my HODs also and my TA guide also. So and getting internship for MTech is something because it is not through the because ideally it is not allowed to get an internship. But yeah, for me it is a GSoC which is more important. The first thing is you will get to know something really into the coding perspective, and yeah, stipends are one more thing I would say.
Okay, that sounds nice. Okay, Rohit is asking, how can mentors help in pre-proposal period just on the basis of the previous contributions we have made? Because generally they are assigned officially after you are selected in GSoC.
I'd like to just answer that. First of all, the fact that you've mentioned about mentors being selected after the selection process of GSoC. I mean, I don't think that's very true for most of the organizations because during my scouting process, I have come across a lot of organizations which have an entire repository of project ideas, and each project idea has a couple of one or two associated mentors right there with their IRC handles or GitHub handles or maybe email IDs. Everything mentioned during the time when a student is supposed to apply to organizations and write their proposals. So that getting out of the way, I think during the pre-proposal period, not only do mentors look at the previous contributions that you have made, but also to the quality of discussions that you have with that particular mentor or even different people from the organization or even on the general chat of the community, because that kind of shows how much you are willing to engage and how much you are into the project as well. So yeah.
Okay, I think that answers your question, Rohit.
There are no fixed mentors. If you just put your message on their group that you're looking to contribute to their project, I mean, there will be people who will be willing to help you, and they will be your mentors. So there's no fixed well, that these are the two people who will guide you throughout, but you'll have to find your own mentors. I mean, anyone who's talking to you is your mentor because he's been there, he has more experience there. And once you've decided your project, you'll get an official mentor, and he will help you with he'll help you with drafting your proposal and later on if you're selected.
Right. Okay, so yeah, I think that surely answered his question. I guess, guys, we can only take 2 to 3 more questions, so we'll have to wrap up after that. Okay, so moving on, we have, Sandeep asks, can you tell us from where we should start basically? Is that the coding or we should do some work before? I didn't really get this question as well. If anybody wants to answer that.
I think this was precisely discussed during the part before the panel discussion as well. I mean, how one should actually start off. I mean, work
Yes.
experience is something. By work experience, if you mean working in a corporate or a startup, if that is your definition of work, I'm sure that's not required, because undergraduate students are also a major chunk of GSoC selected students. For MTechs, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have worked before, I mean, if it's if the organization is in your domain, definitely you get an edge because you have some domain knowledge. But that's completely not essential.
Okay. Yep, I think that answers the question. Right. Nikhil asks, what is the first step for doing GSoC and when is the perfect timeline month for it? I'm a second year, a non-CS guy. I guess this has also been answered. Depending on an organization, like if you have a target organization and you're pretty sure it will be selected in the next year, you can start as, like, it will be better if you start as early as possible. Does anybody want to add on this? Farheen, would you like to say something?
I don't know about BTech, but non-CS guy
Oh,
uh,
right.
can definitely participate. There's no harm in that. Yeah. We are not from CS. We have done BTech in CS, but we are not from CS background in masters. So there's no problem with that. No, none of the organizations or the mentors raise this question of whether you are from a CS background or not. Nobody cares.
In
Until
fact, all the
unless you have
panelists, I
a
guess,
programming knowledge, yeah.
I guess all the panelists here are non-CSE, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Let us take a last question. Mahesh asks, can you mention some bugs, issues, tasks you finished / fixed in pre and in GSoC period? So you want the number of bugs, or do you want to want a specification of bugs? Okay. Does anybody want to take that?
I can talk about mine. So my first bug was it was not really so. So my first bug was actually writing a tutorial. It was not even coding. Their documentation needed a tutorial on something, so they just sent me the documentation to that thing, and they were like, just read this and make a tutorial out of it. That was my first contribution to the organization before GSoC, and my last contribution, like the most complex contribution to the organization before doing GSoC. So this was a game, right? Terasology is basically Minecraft. So my biggest contribution was making a compass which used to hang in the top left corner, and it used to just move around with the player. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yes, I think we'll wrap up now. If anybody else has any questions, you can ask it on our WhatsApp groups, or you can directly text it on the Facebook page. And we again thank all the panelists for joining us and sharing their experiences. Yeah. Is there anything else anybody else wants to add?
I want to add.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people are confused with how to get started. Something we should point out is that even organizations are looking for new contributors every time. So each and everyone working in an open source organization is eager to onboard new people. So even if you just go on their forum and just tell them that you're a new guy, you want to contribute to their organization and you have a decent coding experience, through the CS101 course or anything else, they'll be more than happy to help you, and they'll guide you. They'll give you the links for the small issues, and so from there you can take it up. So it's not some very tough thing to do. You just have to go there and introduce yourself and tell them that you want to do it. And don't mention GSoC at first. Just mention that you want to get involved in open source. They'll be more than happy to take you on.
Yeah, that is something which is important that Yash mentioned, because when you're contacting organizations as early as June, July, October, So at that point of time, it doesn't actually make sense to reveal to the organization directly that you want to participate. Your intent is to participate in GSoC. So yeah, I mean, just get started with what they are working on and some interesting issues that you may find. And then as you get acquainted with the code base, with the mentors, and with the community, you can just go ahead pitching your own ideas of GSoC as well. And if they are worth it, your ideas can also be taken up by the organization to start a GSoC project.
Right. Thanks for the advice. More questions. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll make sure that you get this recording. We'll upload it in a day or two. And again, if you have any more questions, you can reach out to us on Facebook or through WhatsApp. Happy contributing. Thanks.
Everyone.
Thanks for having us, Pranjal.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Bye. Thanks a lot.